For those of you who aren't familiar with Fuse, we are a youth marketing agency and we get to work with some of the most innovative and well-known brands on the planet. We help them activate cross-channel marketing strategies in action sports and also within youth culture. One of the brands that I've had the honor of working with for nearly 20 years, which is hard to believe, and I'm excited to introduce our panelists today who are all part of that DEW family. So Mountain Dew is that brand, and our panelists today are part of that DEW family. The first panelist that I want to introduce is Courtney Anderson. Courtney is Mountain Dew Sports Marketing Lead in the sports group at Pepsi, big brands that she spends her time on. And she works day in and day out on the Action Sports platform, among other things. So Courtney, welcome. And you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Yes, so hi team, Courtney Anderson. As Julie mentioned, I sit on the Pepsi Sports Marketing team helping to lead action sports efforts for the Mountain Dew brand. I've been with PepsiCo for 8 years, having had roles across Frito-Lay, Quaker, and now most recently Pepsi out in our New York office. But prior to my time with PepsiCo, I was a sport marketing and management major at Indiana University, so I've always had a crazy passion for sports. And was honored to work for both the Super Bowl host committee and the Illinois PGA. So super excited to be here today with 3 other kind of amazing women on the team to talk about, sports in a more robust way, but a topic that we're all super passionate about, and women in sports. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Courtney. Next up, we have the very accomplished pro skateboarder, Mariah Duran, known for a lot of things, but mostly for her technical abilities. She skates big stair sets and rails and has the utmost finesse and ease. Welcome, Mariah. Do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mariah Duran. I just got on board to the DEW family like last year. So yeah, it's been a journey. Hyped to be here.
Nice. Welcome. And then finally, we have pro snowboarder Julia Marino, an Olympian who competed in 2018, has claimed numerous wins at elite competitions like the DEW Tour and X Games. Jules, welcome, and feel free to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, I've been Mountain Dew for 2 years now, I think it is. 2 years, yeah, and I'm from Connecticut. I'm 23 years old, and yeah, I'm a freestyle snowboarder. I'm currently in Switzerland right now for my first time on snow, like a snow camp. So
yeah. Nice. Yeah, so I should mention we're all over the world. We've got Jules in Switzerland, Mariah is in LA, Courtney's in New York, and I am in Vermont. So nice geographic spread here. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I just want to introduce our panel. Today's discussion is really dedicated to celebrating the driving force behind women in sports and the positive influences that have been made by women. So women like our panelists, but all over in the sports landscape. And I think, this topic is very real. It's very relevant. It's going on right now. And so this is not just happening in action sports, but in all sports. And so our goal for today's panel is really to play an inspirational role, and also just continue this really important conversation. So I'm going to start with Mariah and Jules. I'm very interested in hearing and also kind of grounding our audience today in your journey as professional athletes. So, as you take us through your journey, can you touch on a little bit of, or maybe showcase some moments that have been really pivotal in your career, and they could be people, they could be events or moments that were kind of game changers in your journey. So Jules, do you want to start us out?
Sure. Yeah, so I actually started out skiing first, so that's kind of like a big moment in my career, I guess, is when I decided to change from skiing to snowboarding when I was 13. And I started out in Vermont there on like the Stratton Mountain team and built up from there and eventually got on the US team. And my first competition that was kind of like put me on the map was the Fenway Big Air. That was in Fenway Park, Boston, which is a pretty cool event. And yeah, that kind of introduced me to like those bigger comps, and then got like a few X Games medals after that, DEW tour, and yeah, just been.
I love how you're so casual. Just you got a few.
Yeah, it's funny to like think about it. Like my whole career, like seems like, I don't know. It just seems like time has been flying by. And I feel like I just, remember being at Stratton not too long ago, and now I'm here, and it's just been like an insane journey. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Mariah, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and some of those pivotal moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely like a lot of pivotal moments, but like the main ones were kind of just like when I thought something wasn't going to happen and then it happened. It was kind of like being in New Mexico, like not really in like the skate industry, not really seeing that much. Kind of like my dad reached out to like one of the filmers out here, was like bragging about me, like, oh, like my daughter's like super good. And I'm like, Dad, she's never going to read that email. Read the email. And then I kind of got like connected kind of through that, and like started showing up at some contests, some in Seattle. And then once I saw like my level of skating, I got invited to go to like X Games as an alternate. And, like I was like pumped, as an alternate, you're like, I'm just going to leave it all on the line. Like, even though you're not even fit, I think those are like, when I was an alternate in the contest, those were some of the most pivotal moments for me, because I like was like, I'm not even in the contest, but I was like so pumped that I was like, whatever I do in practice, like whoever's here is going to see like what I can do, And I think those are pretty pivotal, because like when I got into the contest, it just like felt natural to me. Like I was like, all right, like, I mean, to a certain extent, like I was with the big dogs now. So it was kind of like crazy. But as I went on, I like started to learn that like, everybody who I looked up to were like, just like me kind of, they were just, like kind of like, they just kept progressing. So it was really cool. And then like, yeah, won a couple X Games medals too. And then here I am talking to you guys now.
My first comp too I was also an alternate. It was nice. Then have
right?
that
Isn't
same like you're just like going into it kind of chill. Whatever happens, and then all of a sudden you're in. And you're oh, all right. Like,
Yeah, because it's the pressure is not as high there, right? You're like, I'm an alternate. You can kind of see what's going on around you.
Yeah, you can like put yourself in the
like
shoes of the people competing, but like from a laid back standpoint, kind of.
Yeah, and like my dad was like, maybe someone will get hurt, and I was like, I really don't want none of them to get hurt. Like I don't want.
I know, that's how I got in. I was an alternate and someone got hurt, and it was someone from my team, and I felt bad, but like, yeah, never want that to happen.
But those are pivotal moments when you're there and something like that happens and you kind of get your big break. So it's interesting that you guys have that similar path.
Yeah.
For sure. Courtney, your turn. You are a woman working in sports marketing. You sit in the Pepsi Sports Group working with powerhouse brand like Mountain Dew, which is super impressive. They're a big player in sports, not just in action sports. For those of you who don't know, but Mountain Dew is aligned with NBA as well and others. What are some moments in your career that you recall? Maybe it was, people or opportunities in business, what doors opened for you that kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah, I wish I could sit here, Mariah Duran, and say that I had a handful of medals at the X Games to kick off my little intro. But, I think the pivotal moment for me was really making the choice that I wanted to pursue a career in sports. And I think that I didn't fully know that until I had the opportunity to, again, take an internship with the Super Bowl host committee in Indianapolis. And it was really there with that organization that I got exposure really early on to the sheer number of women that had a leadership position within that organization in particular. And I think kind of as a college student at the time, getting exposure to that in a career sense gave me the confidence that I needed, that I didn't maybe know I needed at the time, but so desperately needed to pursue an opportunity or full-time positions within sports. So I think that was the number one for me. And then I think after that, as I started to kind of learn as much as I possibly could about the sport industry, I just kind of fell in love with this idea of sports sponsorships. And I feel like that can mean a million different things to a million different people. But to me, getting the opportunity really to work on brands that help us engage with our local communities and work with athletes and like-minded organizations to help amplify stories and journeys and everything of the sort is kind of really what made me fall in love with the sports path. So those are kind of the two pivotal moments for me, but both happened kind of fairly early on. So again, super honored to be able to sit here today with two amazing women that are so accomplished within the sport industry to help amplify their stories and their journeys and the amazing impact that they've made on the Mountain Dew brand.
Awesome, awesome. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the rise of women in sports. And so you guys are all women really leading the charge for Jules and Mariah at the highest level of play and competition, and Courtney, for you at the highest level of sports marketing. And so how does being a part of this rise of women in sports and business feel? You know, is it something that you think about often? I mean, obviously today we're reflecting on these moments in our careers, but do you feel like you're part of a movement? Is it something you think about? Courtney, maybe you can start.
Yeah, I think what I'm super proud to sit here and say, and I hope Jules, Mariah, you can kind of relate to the sentiment. I do feel like women in sports and the progression of our journey within that has come a really, really long way. However, I do feel like there's a really long runway for growth. And I think what I hope to do in partnership with this team is play a very small role in continuing to encourage women to get involved. And really, again, to partner with like-minded organizations that can help us do exactly that. So again, while women in sports has come an incredibly long way, I do think that our role and frankly, you know, our responsibility sitting on different brands and being a voice and, you know, being an athlete to the stature is to encourage women within, you know, the space that we work in to do exactly that. And Jules, Mariah, you guys have said, I'm going to quote you both because it's one of my favorite things that you've ever done in the Women Who Do campaign that we launched in March of this year. But I think between the two of you, you've said and given a message to women within action sports to be resilient, be, you know, progressive, have fun, continue to be creative. And I think one thing that's super important that we continue to drive home is that, you know, you don't necessarily need to know the end to the story to go ahead and get started. And it's women like you guys and women in this industry that have that badass mentality that aren't afraid to kind of dive in without knowing how it's going to end. That's super motivating to me. So I think we've got, again, a long way to go, but super proud to play even a super small role and continuing to share that story. So that's it for me.
I think like that's cool what you were saying about the Women Who Do thing, because I had just actually reviewed the little video campaign that was made, and Mariah said how like she doesn't feel like she's a boy or a girl, she's just skating, and I think that's so true, like for me as well, because I just like snowboarding, and I didn't feel like in my sport there was any like you know, discrimination against girls. Like everyone just rode together and had fun, and it didn't matter what gender you were. And I never really thought about it. I was just like, I'm a snowboarder and I'm just gonna snowboard, and I, you know, watch the guys and see what they do and just, you know, see them pushing the next level and try to, you know, take my fellow female athletes as well to progress. And yeah, I never like thought about it kind of in that way. I just did my snowboarding, I just did my stuff. So
Yeah, I think that it was kind of like, I don't know, like I skate with my brothers, you know what I mean? So it's like, in a weird way, it's like when we all get on the skateboard, it's like, okay, like we're all skating. Like we're just skaters at that point. Like that should just like kind of just be known. Like even in snowboarding, like, you know, when you're like dropping in, are you thinking, oh, I'm a girl, then I'm gonna like board slide this rail, this king trail or something? No, you're just like, oh, I'm a snowboarder. I'm gonna like, I know what to do. I get on it. You know what I mean? Or like, you know, it's just like, I think the most important perspective is kind of like your perspective when you're like in your sport. And I think that that's where it needs to be, like no noise, you know, like not all of that noise. It's just like you focus on you when you're doing your craft, you know? And I think that that is where the most like motivation comes from, is when people see you so in tune with what you do. And then that's it. And then that's just broadcasted for people to see, you know? And I think that's pretty important because like for me, it's like I'm hyped to see a girl skater killing it. I'm also hyped to see like a guy skater killing it. Like it doesn't really matter to me. Like if it makes me hyped, that's all that matters, you know? So it's like, yeah, it just so happens there might be like more guys skating, but like in like, it's kind of like my job to be like, okay, well, maybe I could be someone's favorite skater. Like I need to just focus on what I'm doing. So if somebody sees me and I make them hyped to go skate, whether it's a boy or a girl, I've done my job right. You know what I mean? And I think that that will only like grow the scene. Like in the female industry is like, it's one of those things where it's like you almost feel obligated just to keep going, you know, because there's not that many of us, or like we're still breaking barriers that, you know, that for ourselves, you know, as snowboarders or skateboarders, you're breaking barriers for yourself. It's not to the point where it's like a barrier for a girl or a barrier for a boy. It's like you know, you're breaking barriers for yourself. And, you know, and when that's broadcasted, I think that that's like kind of like like my goal is kind of just like, I want to be able to just be fully in tuned, and just if people see me and they're hyped, then I've like done my job right, you know? But yeah, like it's really cool to kind of just see this whole thing kind of growing and seeing the impact that, you know, we have on everybody.
That's
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
glad to have
Mariah.
like grown up in like in a way that wasn't like categorizing my athleticism based on my gender. Or, you know, I just grew up in a way where everyone was equal, and so I never in my head never said to myself, oh, I'm a girl so I can't do this, can't do that. Like I always just, that was never like a mentality that was like instilled in me since I was young. So I'm really fortunate for that, and it definitely helped me become the athlete I am today. So
Yeah, that's extremely inspirational to hear that. And I think that that message is really important for anyone who's watching, is that, you know, you are motivating yourself. It's from within, and thinking of yourself as, you know, the leader in your sport, no matter, you know, what you know, gender you identify with, I think is really critical to the success you guys have seen. So that's really awesome. You know, moving on, I think when you think about that idea of, you know, self-empowerment, what is it that you want to pass on to kind of that next batch of women or young people who are looking at you too and saying, wow, I mean, they really went for it. And they're hearing you guys say you got your big break because coincidentally you had an event as a, you know, as an alternate, and someone got hurt and you got to finally compete, you know? I mean, what would you say to those young people looking up to you guys?
I think the same thing, like don't feel like you need to categorize your skills and abilities based on the way you were born, you know, like, and you can do anything you want. And yeah, girls are biologically not as strong as guys. Like for sure guys are doing bigger tricks in snowboarding, but like girls are just getting up, like we're at the same level that guys were a couple years ago, you know, like it's coming up. And we're, you know, just do your thing. Like don't think that just because you're a girl you can't do something. Like if you just put that mentality out of your head, like it will really help you progress as an athlete, especially a female athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like one of those things. It's like guys and girls are different, but is more broken than the other. It's just different systems. You know what I mean? So I think when people see like, oh, they got like X Games medals and everything like that, but like I feel like Julia can agree. It's like kind of one of those things. You were always working for something, and you were just ready for the opportunity when it came. You know, like there was times when I was like, man, like if I would have like gotten an X Games first try and won gold, like that would have been so sick. But it's like maybe like, you know, like there was another plan. Maybe I had to feel, you know, like I needed to keep working for something. It's like one of those things. It's like you have to adapt to the situation, but also just like prepare yourself for like anything. And, you know, like if anybody's watching this and they're like, oh, I want to get to that level, like my best advice would be to just like understand that like everybody's path is different. You know, everybody has like a dream that they're chasing. And for all like we've accomplished, I think I'm still going, you know, I feel like I still haven't like peaked. It's something that you always keep working for, but I think it's just like the best advice I can say is probably just focus on the moment. You know what I mean? Because then that will be like, if you just continue just focusing on day by day by day by day, and of course you have goals to skate in big competitions or snowboard in big competitions, but if you focus on like the climb up to it, you'll just be that much more prepared when it comes, you know. And it might not come like right away, you know, you might have to feel a loss, you might have to get injured, you might have to do a lot. But I think the main thing is just like understand like everybody's path is different, but it's still like going up, you know. That's like the main thing. And to not get discouraged, because there's plenty of times where it's like you get discouraged and you're like, should I really be doing this, you know? But it's just like you just have to understand why you started in the first place, you know. And I think that's really important, to just have like the love for what you do and just keep going forward is my best advice.
Definitely. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna switch topics. I think you both had referenced the Women Who Do platform, and I wanted to let our audience know what that was. Is the Women Who Do platform, for those of you who don't know, is DEW's honoring of women in sports. And I think as we talk about the rise of female athletics, it can't really just be about the athletes and the leagues and the events, although those all play a very big role in sports. But I do think it is important that sponsors and brands really lean in. And so, Courtney, I'm going to throw it to you. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about the Women Who Do platform and why it's been such an important effort for DEW.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So, you know, I think Women Who Do, not only was it a huge passion project for so many of us that worked on it, I think the second that, you know, the idea kind of came to be, all of us immediately were like, all right, what do we have to do to make this happen? And, you know, let's hope that our amazing female partners are on board to share the same story that we would like to. But I think the Women in Do platform is all about kind of sharing and amplifying the voices of our amazing female athletes internally. And that's one tier. And I think in addition to that, it's all about, you know, partnering with like-minded organizations that also are in pursuit of that same mission. So how do we encourage more women to get involved in sport more than ever before? And how do we share the stories of our athletes to, again, encourage people to maybe take a path that they didn't know existed, or look at an opportunity differently? And I think one thing that was both mentioned by both Julia and Mariah just now was that, you know, success can be defined so differently. And I think what we want to be sure that we share as a brand is that, you know, just because success might be defined a certain way within a male dominated sport doesn't mean that success in the way that we look at it with our amazing female athletes is inferior to that. In fact, you know, we believe that it's on par, if not better, because we have the opportunity again to share those stories in a way that hasn't been done by a lot of other brands within, you know, the industry, at least to this capacity. So I think it's about continuing the conversation, and we know that we, again, with the partnerships that we have, hopefully have the opportunity to influence and just encourage generations after us to look at opportunities within sport in a way that they maybe hadn't in the past. So to be able to even play a very, very small part in that conversation, I know means a whole lot to the people that I work with internally and our athletes as well. So that's a little bit about the program, but hopefully more to come. We think that, March of 2020 was just the beginning or kickoff of what this program is. We hope that it's something that we continue moving forward. And I think we leaned in really heavily with Mariah Jules and also Asia Wilson on the WNBA side this year. But I think we internally are also laser focused on, making sure both within our North America market, but also globally, that we continue to sign and partner with women athletes and talent to show our dedication as an organization to women in sports. So that's a little more about the program.
Awesome. I think, hearing from you, Mariah and Jules, would be great, understanding what it's like to have a brand collaborator like Mountain Dew or some of your other great partners that really lift athletes up and give you guys that voice or exposure or even the opportunity to give back. And I know that you both have some really admirable efforts in terms of giving back. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that or reflect on some of those partnerships? Jules, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. I think, you guys believe in us, and that's really cool, to have that kind of support from a brand like this, and, just constantly like giving us that extra motivation. Like, we've become really close with all of you, which has made it like very comfortable atmosphere, especially in, like a big brand like you guys. And giving back, now I like have the ability to work with you guys on a project that I'm doing in my backyard, and it's about, how I always wanted to have a backyard set up when I was younger, and now I can finally build one and kind of like give the entire community of snowboarding where I live this place to just come ride and be free and have fun and be creative and do whatever you want, build features, and with your guys' help on that, it's been really cool, and I'm super like thankful to be a part of a brand that believes in my abilities and pushes me to continue pushing myself. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Mariah?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Julia. Like having the support of DEW is amazing. It's like just one of those things. It's like it's a pivotal moment, as you say. Like it's like one of those things. It's like you would never think that, I would have never thought that I would have gotten this support. You guys have had such an amazing team. Some of the people that I've looked up to in skateboarding have ridden for this team, and it was just kind of like one of those pivotal moments where I was like, okay, like this is where I need to be. And the fact of like how much you care like so about each individual person is amazing. It's kind of like you take the time to really hear each and every one's story, and I think that's pretty important, because it's like if somebody's listening, like someone can relate to my story, and then someone could also relate to Julia's story. But it's really cool to kind of just see that, because I know when I was younger, and if I was younger and I would hear, people like hear like their voices and stuff, it would make me that much more like connected to like what I would want to do in the future. And like having like I'm still pretty new to the DEW team, but last year was one of like the parts where I was like, wow, like this is the fact that they listen individually, to like my story, and they find it important, makes me feel good. And it also allows me to speak my words, and maybe that will target, a little boy or a little girl to continue what they're doing. And I think that that's so important, because like the younger generation is what's going to keep this going. It's not just going to end with us. Like, of course we're going to continue building, but it's like you have to also think about the younger generation coming into the game. And I think it's very important. It's very awesome that, like I said, it's just like an individual thing. So it's really cool to be a part of.
That's great. That's great. So we have one more question that we'll pose to the panelists, but before we do that, just want to ask everyone out there, our viewers, to submit questions through the chat function. I think there are a bunch of questions already coming in. So we'll be spending our last 10, 15 minutes doing Q&A, and then we are going to let everyone leave a few minutes early. We know that those keynotes start promptly at 10 a.m. Pacific, so we'll let you guys take a break before that starts. So submit those questions now, and we're going to get to those in a minute. I guess my last question for you all before we hand it over to our viewers is, is there a piece of advice that you've received from somebody, somebody who's been inspirational in your world, or maybe it's someone you don't even know. It could be, someone that you've read about, or, a different athlete of sorts. Is there some type of advice that you've gotten that you would want to pass along to the next person? Mariah, why don't you kick that off?
I will kick it off. All right, cool. It's crazy because there's just so many that goes into your head. And when you're like, what were they again?
Yeah.
One of the things that I've heard, it was from this artist. Don't quote me. I forgot their name, but it motivated me, and I've kind of kept this with me. And they kind of said, your future self should inspire you. You should be inspired to meet your future self. And I kind of just took that to kind of everything that I do. It's kind of one of those things where it's man, let's say 2020 Olympics happened. I could not wait to meet myself in August, but it didn't happen. But I still felt like I met who I needed to meet in August this year, which is crazy to me. It's kind of one of those things where it's man, I felt like I met my 12-year-old self that was a lot better at skateboarding and kind of had more, more on her experience. But I kind of felt that was so inspiring to me. Is just if anybody's listening, your future self should kind of motivate you. You should be inspired to meet who you're going to be in 6 months or a month or tomorrow. I think that's one of the ones that kind of stuck with me for a while.
That's great. I love it. Courtney, you're up next.
Awesome. So, I think for me, I'll keep it simple. I think be resilient. I think, as mentioned before, I think there's a million different definitions of success, but we're ultimately, the ones responsible for making sure that we achieve what we're set out to achieve. And I kicked off with this, but I think what was super motivating and compelling for me back in the day before I even decided to try to work in sports was seeing women in leadership positions within the industry. And again, I needed that confidence to stay resilient, to try to pursue ultimately a position within the industry. So I think it's important to continue to remind yourself that we can do whatever we set out to do. And if we surround ourselves with the right network of people to help us get there and continue to have that support system, I think we can do whatever we set out to achieve. And then I think the second thing is really just to have fun. And I'm guilty of it more than anybody, but it's so easy to get so caught up in, trying to do this and do that and all at the same time. And I think the reason, right, why you guys ride and why I work in sports is because we're all passionate about what we do. And I think the second that you forget about that, the fun, diminishes a little bit. So I think that's an important thing that I try to remind myself weekly too. So be resilient and have fun.
Nice. Jules, round us out before we start taking some questions.
Yeah, it kind of ties back to what I was saying before, and it wasn't from a specific person. It was just kind of from friends and family that knew me as I was growing up and believed in me so much. And I would say one of the things is to just know your abilities. You feel those abilities inside you and you go with that feeling. You don't say oh no, I don't think so. If you know in yourself that you can do that, go ahead and do it. I remember I was training on or riding an airbag recently, or a few summers ago when my coach first got an airbag, and I just felt like I just let loose on it. Like I just went out and did all these things that I never thought that I would actually like be able to try on a snowboard. Like maybe, I don't know for sure if I would ever do them on snow because it's a little bit gnarly, but like it was still cool to see that I could like actually my body was able to do those things. And just like know your ability, trust your ability, trust your instincts, your balance, your coordination, all that. And yeah, just kind of go for it. And I had that inspiration from all my friends and family who just like were like, you're really, good at what you do, just keep going with it, don't stop. And yeah, it's kind of what kept inspiring me to keep going.
Love it. Oh my gosh, you guys, I mean, the inspiration is exuding from all of you guys. And not only because I'm hearing it, but I'm seeing all the questions coming in. So if you guys are good with it, we're going to take the next 10 minutes or so to do some Q&A. Are you ready? Awesome. Okay, so the first question, I don't have a name, but it's for Mariah. So Mariah, it says you ride for a woman-owned brand. I'm sure you had offers from some other or bigger brands. What made you stay with Meow Skateboards?
The biggest thing for me is like just the support to, I don't know, I'm just a very loyal person. It's like one of those things, it's like if somebody backed me when I wasn't even that good, and they believed in me, I'm kind of the type to be like, yo, like I'm riding with you for a while. With Meow Skateboards, I think it was very important for me to kind of, my goal is to kind of just set the bar that like, having a woman brand skateboard can just set the tone. And if I can set the bar, maybe other women will be inspired to ride for the company. And that was my main thing, because it's like I could go to other companies, I've gotten offers, but for me, I felt like I would have more of a voice on this one, and that's really important to me. That's why I continue to ride for Meow Skateboards.
That's awesome. I love it. I mean, loyalty and brand alliance, and then also all the memories and things you guys have done together as a partnership is impressive. So Courtney, this is for you. This question is from Caroline Dignis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. She says, Courtney mentioned she sees there's still a long runway for growth for women in sports. And Caroline is interested to hear more about what specifically Courtney sees as those opportunity for growth. And I think that's great. Maybe we'll let everyone answer that one, but Courtney, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, that's a great question, Caroline. So, I think it's a few different things. I think that, personally, I think there's an opportunity for brands and organizations and athletes to continue to share their stories, because I think, as both Mariah and Julia mentioned, you guys are an inspiration for so many and have so many people looking up to you and your accomplishments and what you do day in and day out within the action sports space. And then I think in addition to that, there's an opportunity to push progression within the sport. Just again, because the way that, the sport is today is certainly not the way the sport is going to be tomorrow and the day after that. So for us to be able to craft that together, to create a new definition of success for what, the competition is within the sports that we each participate. I think, again, there's just a lot of room to grow, not only from a competition perspective, but also from just a storytelling perspective, to encourage more women to join the conversation and boost each other up to create this network, right, of just positivity and encouragement that I think we all are eager to play a role in.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in before I pass it to Mariah and Jules. And I think it's important to talk about both men and women, empowering women as we continue to make headway for women in sport. So I think that's important to mention. But let me pass it to you guys, Mariah or Jules. Any other thoughts there on what specifically are opportunities for growth moving forward?
Well, just to quickly say what you said, I'm also hyped to be in a sport where men and women aren't separated, like based, we're all right together, and that's what's really cool. And that's definitely one of the things that, helped me with that mentality. But yeah, sorry, what was the question again?
Well, no, I think it's about specifically understanding what other maybe boundaries do we want to break, or do you want to break for women moving forward? Is there any progression that you think should be a focus?
I mean, I feel like we're just really already on such a good path. I've watched a lot of female skateboarding, and I've seen some amazing things. Like some of these times I can't even differentiate between girls and guys on a skateboard, and it's starting to be the same too for women in snowboarding. And like the trajectory is just like going up for the progression. It's really cool to see. It's cool to see women from all over hopping on that train, seeing that, they can do this stuff as well, and just continuing to progress and push each other. And it's gone in like I said, such a good direction so far, and I don't even know what else to say about it. Like,
yeah,
it's really cool to see. It's honestly, like, you can't ask for anything better, especially to be a part of such like a progressive sport. So
Yeah, I would have to agree with Julia. Kind of like when she said, like, when you watch something and you almost can't even differentiate, like, the difference, like, that's the ultimate goal, because it's like at the end of the day, we're all skaters, we're all snowboarders. But it's
exactly.
cool. The cool thing about snowboarding and skateboarding is, like, it's all within yourself. Like, nobody can do it but you. It's more of like, if you hear something and someone tells you either you can do something or you can't do something, you shouldn't let that voice inside you, like, like, take the negative. The only voice that you should hear is in your head. Like when Julia was saying, like, she was practicing on a mat or trying tricks she never would have tried.
Mm.
That was like no limits. It's one of those things where it's like, if somehow we can, show the world that your voice is the only one that really matters at the end of the day, you have to go, no matter whatever you do, you have to go and lay down with yourself and, like, eat breakfast with yourself. Like, that's the most important voice that you should focus on. You should not really focus on any of the negative, and you shouldn't, like, gas yourself up to the point where you stop trying. It should be all of that inner power. And I think that that's really important in such a progressive sport like snowboarding or skateboarding. It's like really you, like, doing all the work. It's just more of like you putting in the work, and you see the level you're at. It's like Julia said, like, we don't practice with the girls or the boys. We could go snowboard or skateboard with the boys if we want to.
Yeah,
It's
there's no
not
separation of
limited,
teams, whatever.
so
All
that's why I
combined.
think these sports are super important, and it's really cool to be a part of that and kind of be a voice, just to show everybody that, like, they have, like, you have your own voice. You just gotta, like, stay focused on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
very cool. So next question, and this person, I don't have a name, but it says, I like your perspective that men and women are different but not lesser than each other. Our bodies are just as whole, complete, and perfect. But most training regimens are based on optimizing performance in males. Do you have any female focused apps or workout trick tips for women specifically?
I think nowadays, especially if you work with like an athletic coach we have an athletic coach with the US snowboard team, it's not male specific at all. Like, they really care about each athlete and care about our strength and well-being and our health in general. And so they know that we're built differently as well. So, certain exercises, maybe it's more beneficial, not so beneficial. I really don't feel like my training is based off of that of a male. It's like, I just feel like if I require good training from a trainer, he's going to give me, or he or she is going to give me what's best for me, for my body type, for what I'm doing. Especially now with like the knowledge that people have in that in that subject or whatever. It's definitely pretty in tune and focused. on, targeting those specific things.
Yeah, for me, I've been fortunate enough to partner with this company called Oracle, and I've seen this firsthand. Like, here's the thing, like, my take is like, obviously our bodies are built different, but it's like your mentality shouldn't change because of your body. Like, you can still do all the things that you think you can do. It's just you have a different system. You have to be feeding yourself different stuff. I know it firsthand. I like I'm with my brothers, and like we skate every day, and there'd be some days where I'm like, man, I am exhausted. Like, I don't know why I feel so heavy. You know what I mean? And they're like just chilling, just doing whatever. And I'm like, like it's just, but we have like, different hormones. And I've been super blessed to partner with this app company called Oracle. And it monitors all of your hormones of the month, because as women, we're women. We're meant to have babies, and you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where it's like, you don't have to change who you are. You just have to change the system. That's pretty much it. And I think that it's a really easy like app. I've been on it for a couple months. I've seen the difference, and it's just a really cool thing to experiment, because like I said, it's like we're not broken. It's not like one's lesser than the other. We just have to find out ways to improve ourselves more, because like for me, I've gotten this far because I've always thought like, just push. Like I know I can do it, but sometimes physically my body is like tired for
Sure.
some reason, you know what I mean? And you have to be able to understand your body just more, so you can get to that level of like, okay, like, yeah, like you could probably just wake up and run. Maybe I got to do a couple of stretches. Maybe I got to eat this in order for me to run with you, so that's kind of my take. I've been really fortunate enough to do that. I mean, any of you guys want to check it out, I highly recommend it. It's really cool because it's not about like, girls or boys are more stronger. It's like we're just as strong. We just have a different system. That's it. That's the only thing.
Sorry, Mariah, what was the thing called?
It was called Oracle. I can send it to you.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to check that out.
I like that.
The mental plays such a big role, like you were saying. Like,
no, 100%.
If you're mentally like, I'm doing it, it's like it's changes everything. But sometimes there are times when it's like your body is like, all right, but
100%.
for the most part, the mental plays a huge role.
So we are running out of time. We're going to do one more question. And this one, Courtney, I'm going to start with you. The question is, what has been your favorite place or location that your career or sports journey as an athlete has taken you? So Courtney gets to travel for business from time to time. It may not be to as exciting places as Mariah and Jules, but what is that place that's been one of your favorites?
Yeah, I will say it is definitely not going to be as exciting as Mariah or Jules, but I will start. I would say for me, it was Dew Tour last year at Copper Mountain, and it was just the perfect intersection of competition and culture, and getting an opportunity to meet so many amazing people that play a role in bringing that event to life. And for me, having it be my first winter Dew Tour and getting to see it come to life was, unparalleled. And again, super honored to play even a very, very small part in helping bring that to life, but just more importantly, surround ourselves with all the great people that typically attend. So that was it for me. But Mariah, Jules, cannot wait to hear this answer from you guys. I know it's going to be good.
You want to go first, Julia?
Sure, yeah. I've been to a lot of places, which I'm really fortunate because I got to experience that at a young age. But it's honestly hard to just like pinpoint one. But if I were to think of one of the places I went to was in Japan. It was when we went during the summer for like looking at the airbag things I was telling you about back when that was kind of just on the rise, like a new technology, a new way to practice snowboarding when you didn't have snow. So I was with a friend of mine and my coach, and we stayed in Japan in this bamboo forest. in like the jungle, pretty much in this little like clay Airbnb hut that had like a tree in it. And there was like a little tree house in the tree that me and my friend slept in, and like there were monkeys everywhere, and like the villagers brought us like food every day, and it was like such an unreal experience. Like the culture was like so peaceful. The people there were so nice, and we got to snowboard every day on these airbag things in like the most insanely like beautiful setting. So yeah, I'm really fortunate to have been able to travel to places that look a lot different from where I live, because you'd be like surprised at like some of the nature that there is around the world. Like you're just not used to it, and it's insane. And you know, the air is like so pure, and it's just really cool.
I think everyone's soaking this up as everyone's kind of quarantined in their houses or offices.
Yeah, it's nice to reminisce on those times, especially after all this.
Nice, nice. And then Mariah, quickly, because we're running out of time, your favorite spot?
I would say my favorite spot that skateboarding has taken me is probably London. I felt like that skate culture was really cool to be a part of, and it wasn't like there wasn't a language barrier, which is kind of nice when you're traveling.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I would say London was one of my favorite ones, just because I've seen a lot, me personally, a lot of London and a lot of skate videos that I've like watched since I was younger. So being there and like seeing everything for the first time and like kind of being able to skate it, that was really memorable for me, because it was kind of like, you know, a dream come true. You never would have thought you would be there, but you know, somehow like skateboarding took me there in the best of ways. So yeah, I would probably say London.
Love
Did
it.
you
Good
go on the
stuff.
London Eye, the giant Ferris wheel?
No, I need to. That
I went
sounds.
there when I was young. It was insane. We were like so high up in the air.
Oh, I'm gonna do that next time.
You should. Our family did that on a trip to London last year. Anyways, I want to let everybody go. There's 3 minutes till those keynote speakers start, but I do want to end by thanking all of our panelists. Oh my gosh, you are all such an inspiration to me every single day. I love working with you guys day in and day out. You're doing amazing work. Keep it going. I also want to just do a quick call out to my tech support of all women. So Lauren, Haley, and Marissa from the Fuse team who helped make this happen. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen today, and have a great summit. The next 2 days are going to be great. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you all.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.